All right, I gotta press all the buttons, and I did it without even screwing up once. I'm so proud of myself. But ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the other semifinals. It's a best of 5. It's fresh. It's brand new if you're just tuning in, and this will determine who goes on to the finals to fight against Lilbo. Spawning in the bottom left corner of the map. We'll see if the foreign hope can continue. We already have 1 foreigner up there. There's no way we get 2, right? I don't know, but from Fnatic Gaming, we have the blue Protoss Harstem.
Never right, as the red Terran, it's Gumiho.
And just quick addendum, I said Fnatic Gaming, and I don't know why. It's just Fnatic, but yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Sorry, I like to be right about it. Correct, blah, blah, blah. But okay, so we got some really cool stuff going on for what has been pretty much the first series today. I wouldn't say Gumiho has any better or worse of a chance going off of the server we're playing on, but it does beg the attention of saying Harstem's got that little bit of a home field advantage. The fact that he's probably not going to feel any latency where Gumiho might feel just a smidge. Well,
hey now. Yesterday, Harstem had more lag than his opponent on EU.
Yeah, that was really weird, actually. I don't know what was up with that. But Harstem also did kind of squash Marine Lord. And Marine Lord, maybe not quite Gumiho levels of Terran, but still, Harstem showed us just how good his versus Terran is.
Yeah. You talked about like maybe playing like more macro-oriented than Lilbo, and I agree with that. I think he's probably going to play like he did versus Marine Lord, which is very patient. You know, you got, flies around his face, swatting him off, and then when push comes to shove, he actually like push and win, like literally push and win. So if Gumiho does the same thing, which I don't really think he's going to be nearly as like, he's not going to play like Marine Lord. Marine Lord was everywhere, like with Doom drops, regular drops, like not waiting a long time to get Vikings and Ghosts. Yeah. And Gumiho, he can play that style for sure, but he can also, he can mech first of all, which is cool, but second of all, he can just do like the chill, wait till 14 minutes and like push and just win with a huge army.
Well, I already like what Harstem's done to start. That little bit of a subtle building placement that kind of helps deny Reapers from being able to just run through your probe line and around the probe line. Not that a Reaper seems to ever be that big of a deal for Protoss players anymore, but this just adds to the fact that it will not be able to get much done other than basic scouting.
Yeah.
I'm actually a little bit curious. We always talk about this. There's some players out there who do have that niche for abusing maps, like tanks down here. If it was Supernova, we'd say this would happen without a question, but I wouldn't rule it out for Gumiho, somebody who's very tank keen himself when given the opportunity.
Oh, it's gonna be Barracks build, so womp womp.
Yeah, womp womp. Save for opening, of course, when you go for the faster command center. This does, of course, help you check off that nasty paranoia of, is an Oracle coming? But yeah. Should that actually not be the case, you end up having a lot of production, and we see those pushes come, the overcharges go down, but Terrans sometimes just don't care, and they'll go through that mineral line and clear out the probes.
Well, no SCV scout meant the Reaper went, the incorrect way first, so by the time it gets into the main, that stock will basically be out. The militia core is already there too, so you might be able to see like when the second gas was taken if he's really keen on looking, but yeah, gets in there, sees one gas, that's it. So a little, it sucks a little bit. Like if they had both gases the entire time, you would be a little worried, but he'll come in later and hopefully scout this Twilight Council that went down.
Well, for Harstem's sake, one of the cool things I'm really hoping to see is he's not a guy who's really afraid to use storms. Going to the late game, it is bio for stuff, so this is a really big deal of relevance, but we're so used to just seeing Colossus games and SCV pulls and Colossus games, but Harstem's the type of guy who will do storms when given the right opportunity, and I think it's one of those clocks you almost put on him where, alright, yeah, there might be ghosts out to counter, but Harstem's so good at doing cool moves like putting them in warp prisms or bringing them in from like way off to the side. So, if this does get to the point where we do see Templar tech come out, and not just Blade Stalkers, and not just Colossus, I think that's where we're going to see Gumiho really sweat in the series.
You mean, yeah. I thought you meant like in general, and I'm like, Protoss are afraid to use Storm?
No.
Since when?
I'm talking like specifically here, tailored to like this description of this match, because let's not forget, like Harstem also did some really cool things. We always reference back to this because it was such a good series. But like when he played against Bunny, a lot of those fake out moves, like, hey, look at me, I'm going Colossus, psych, Templar.
Yeah, that was a really cool series. We do have Gumiho just being very like macro oriented, you know? And that's what I was kind of talking about. Like instead of doing like the Marauder slow push, combat shield push, any type of push just to get the overcharge, he just waits in his main for a while. And he might bait out the overcharge, but I don't know if he's going to stim in and get it. Although stim might be finished by the time he makes it way over there, and it actually might be worth it. We'll see. But the thing is that if he doesn't actually commit his units, it's still going to be like a big army that's going to be, you know, paired up with medevacs later.
Yeah. Well, I'm wondering, for the sake of what's coming, I mean, this is a really scary attack. It might not be the biggest push in the world, but because he went stim first, it's not going to quite be the sickest timing with combat shields, but it will be a situation where he could potentially just stim through and say, well, I don't care that you have overcharge. Let's get damage done. Let's tango.
This gateway placement from Harstem is really nice. That stops that type of decision. You know, it makes him at least think twice before doing it, because you want to get into the mineral line, really start getting those probes. And if a gateway's blocking you out, you don't want to have to filter through. It's just like these seconds are very important.
Oh, he pre-stims to go for the Mothership Core.
Oh.
Reaper dies over here, but he barely doesn't quite kill it in time. The Mothership Core does get the foot on overcharge off. Probes are being pulled out of this, but if these get to the main, this gets really problematic. Stalkers trying to blink away for safety, but they have to block the army off on the ramp to an extent. So does kill a lot of the Marines. And Gumiho really does not get his money's worth of this attack.
Yeah, I actually don't know about that attack.
I mean, I guess on one hand he did kill the Mothership Core, so there's not going to be a second overcharge or recall or anything quite so silly. But yeah,
that was his entire army.
Yeah, and it wasn't. It was just for like lost mining time. I mean, resources lost looks okay, guys, because it's the gas value that gets added into this, but. Realistically speaking, Harstem's taking a third and not breaking a sweat. You know, if he didn't pull those probes, he probably would have lost more than 4. And that's when maybe that becomes really, really worth it. But that did go south very quickly for Gumiho.
Yeah. When you imagine what like the other alternative is, which is like not to stim in there and just go home, bigger army, but also that third probably would have gotten canceled. There's no way those Blink Stalkers take on the army just by themselves. So definitely would have gotten a cancel. But now he has to wait for his medevacs before he wants to push. And he might still get a cancel. I mean, he certainly is going to still play with medevacs, you know, probably quite heavily, but opportunity missed.
I really enjoy that he took this third base as well. We always talk about how, you know, Protoss usually do, but Terran as well can abuse this base. You know, low ground, Marine sitting there. We're not going to see anything quite as abusive as we saw Lobo versus Impact, of course, but just be able to use your range and the terrain against Zealots is really, really crucial sometimes for an attack. But coming forward, we do have a Colossus out. The second one's about to join it. Extended thermal lens is not finished, and I don't even think it's been started, actually.
Yeah, this could be a big deal. I mean, he has to defend this third base, which is quite a good concave. Like, it's a very wide open space, and the Marauders could stim on top of them.
I mean, I get the priority to get more units out. That first push kind of scared him a little bit. He knew the production was going to be high, but 3 Colossus before extended thermal lance. That's going to make these Colossus forced to fight in range of Marauders, which is never a comfortable feeling. Yeah,
okay. He does start extended thermal lance, so I'm not sure if it was a, you know, on-purpose decision or what, but he's going to be safe. And Gumiho's just going to drop just a little bit, but that cannon's there, and that's just going to buy enough time to stop him from doing too much damage.
Yeah, and extended thermal lance finally did start up as well, so not forgetting it, just delaying it. We do have the cannon that actually going to deter the medevac quite nicely, but here comes that push through the front, and for Harstem's sake, he's got to make sure he's got enough units split, because he has to deal with this big attack, but he also can't ignore that drop. So we got some Stalkers in the main looking to catch this medevac. They will barely get on top of it in time. It looks like the overcharge did beat back that push, so Harstem defends here pretty perfectly.
Yeah, really well. I guess I'm thinking about for Gumiho, you know, they're both on 3 bases, and they're both kind of, I guess, Gumiho is admitting that maybe he won't be able to break the third anyway, so does he, okay, yeah, throws down a second starport, and we'll probably start thinking about Ghost eventually as well. Harstem going to Templar Archives kind of quickly. I mean, a lot of games in PvT you've been seeing just like very much so holding off on that tech and getting like a lot of Colossus, but Harstem's been pretty good about getting that earlier storm.
On 3 bases, he can certainly afford just about anything he wants for the time being. Gumiho, of course, throwing down his 4th could give him a lot of extra mulage power, but this pressure coming, I mean, this is so Marauder heavy. We might not have Vikings out just yet, but if Harstem's not careful, a stim in is going to pick off so many Colossus so quickly.
I mean, he's starting to add a lot of ground units to it, though, so it's really not going to be as easy as it would have been without those Zealots. I don't know what he scanned to sell him. I think he maybe saw like the tail end of a High Templar, but he does throw down a Ghost Academy. And it's going to get to that old-fashioned Ghost versus Templar, Viking versus Colossus.
Alright, well, the Photon Overcharge just chases back for a moment. I would love to see this factory come land in the main and start making Widow Mines, by the way. It's not really getting a whole lot done where it's floating at the moment, but yeah, that Viking count has really got to ramp up before he can really take a comfortable engagement. He's got about, what's that, 5 right now? It's not too bad. About 6 or 8, and he could probably start thinking about actually going for a big attack, but the Stalker count really not that out of control. It's going to be very difficult for Harstem to stop these Vikings from killing all his Colossus.
Yeah, it is 5 Colossus though, so there's always the argument to be made that they'll just deal the damage fast enough that even if they die, it won't matter. But with a mostly Marauder army, and with the micro displayed in some of these battles, like the slight pulling backs of the Marauders, that usually doesn't happen anymore. You know, like A moving into a Protoss army was never a good idea, but people haven't gotten even better about it recently.
Well, it's kind of cool to see the Warp Prism. This is the one single unit I think a Protoss player has that is the best at drawing a Terran army back home. I mean, a single Dark Templar isn't even as threatening as a Warp Prism, because the Warp Prism with it can bring like 10 or 13 Zealots, as we've seen count a gateway. In fact, what is the gateway count at? 10, exactly, not too bad. Something he can certainly afford on 3 bases. The Ghost Academy, of course, researching personal cloaking while this goes on. Really like this move. But still no ghosts.
Yep, not yet. He does scan and he sees those High Templars ready to go, and you gotta assume they have Storm, never assume they don't. So I don't know if he's really gonna be able to, you know, want to take this fight, but he has a good concave, and Marauders will last through storms.
Well, this is gonna be a scary fight for both sides. Harstem in the middle of the map exposed like this is a little bit dangerous, as it does set up for this really nice surround from multiple angles out of Gumiho. Storm's still gonna come down, chase off the Marauders, nice dodges, repels them immediately, and the Templar even lives. Well, for now.
Well, the biggest thing about this is that Harstem knows that he has a drop set up, and there goes the drop. He can turn it into a, you know, actually a warp point and do really well, but the fight goes down.
The Vikings take out the Colossus so quickly. There's really not much behind this. A couple of storms trying to go down. Ooh, nice blanket catch on top of those Marauders, but moves out of it very quickly. The Zealots shredding the count on the left, and the Vikings now going to land on the ground. So many Vikings available.
They're going to actually clean up the Zealot army. Usually they're really not that high a number when they are able to land, but the Zealots did do a lot of damage. He is on 4, actually 5 command centers. Yeah,
19 SVs died. Perhaps not that big of a deal in the long term, because you do have a lot of mules, and he's had a bit of a bank, but it's the fact that he had to draw the entire army back. Like, Gumiho has to go home to deal with this. It's not something he can ignore, and this Warp Prism for Harstem just saved his butt in this game.
Yeah, absolutely. That is the biggest thing about that. And, you know, Harstem got to his own 4 bases, so all he really needed was, you know, just like a minute to get back a good army. Actually, he's a second Robo on the way as well. How good was he about, like, backup High Templars? Okay, I think these are warped in actually pretty recently. But, like, you'll see, like, the best Protosses, they'll have, like, you know, 1 at each base for feedbacks, of course, but also in case situations like that happen where the armies trade out evenly, and the ghosts are all gone, and what you absolutely desperately need is just a few more storms to hold on. And that's where those High Templars that are stuck inside your main, your naturals, really come in handy.
I'm a little bit worried for Gumiho right now with his Viking count. He's got so many of them, which isn't a problem, but so many of them are badly damaged. So right now, he's not thinking about replacing them. But if those all died to like 1 or 2 storms, oh, that's gonna be big problems.
I don't know about pushing out here.
Yeah, Harstem
again, going into that concave.
Yeah, there's no pressure to.
Right. That's what I'm thinking as well. So I mean, he does back off. You know, doesn't lose too much.
Yeah, we get this cool little back attack set up with Zealot's going to chip through some of the rocks, and we'll see how that goes. But this is why he didn't want to take this base. Storm just landed on top of the Vikings. Oh, he's going to send all these forward to their death, though, catching a death of storms. Oh my god! But with so many storms being used on the Vikings, will they have enough left for the bio? The Colossus count is certainly not high enough to carry the army. Not right now, and the probes are being chipped away at. For Harstem to lose a couple of probes, not so big of a deal, as long as he doesn't lose the army fight for it.
I don't know if he can take this. Again, those High Templars in the natural and the main are going to be very important. They're the last storms that Harstem has. It only needs 1 or 2 good storms, and these arms are so low.
Everyone's in the red or the orange. We do have those Zealots that have set up for this counterattack. It's been like the long con, tunneling through to the bank, but finally gets through. Going to go into that natural base, probably just a moment's time, but right now he's got to focus on the home front. This defensive fight with 3 Colossus and no Vikings to stop them is actually starting to look a little bit better for Harstem.
That's exactly what he did, was grab those High Templars from his other bases, and that's absolutely what he needed. Warping in a couple of more. I mean, Archon's going to be really important too. You got to realize that if storms don't kill the Vikings, hopefully a good Archon blast will. Although the Viking count like was never replenished like at all. Like 2 came out, and that's basically like War Prism defense right there.
Yeah, if we had more ghosts on the front lines, you can make the argument that, you know, the EMPs cover the same damage the Vikings might have, maybe, but yeah, there's still no ghosts on the front lines at this point. I mean, he did go for personal cloaking as well, so I mean...
Did he ever make a ghost?
I don't know, but like the sooner you get the ghost out, the sooner it's got more energy to make that personal cloaking last longer, more EMPs. I don't know, like 1 or 2 at least, but none is a little astonishing out of Gumiho, but we have seen players make this style work, and not in rare circumstances. I mean, massive Marauders seems to be the way to go for a lot of the higher up Terrans.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to bring up. This is a style that he's probably like intentionally going for, not forgetting to get these other units, but it's a hard hard style to make work.
Well, double drops, managed to sneak around the map while this goes on. Harstem perhaps getting a little bit too focused on the front lines. Doesn't quite see this coming, so these do land without any weapons to defend. A Dark Shrine's coming up. This will actually be great for defense later on. Morzelis did, by the way, sneak by through that northern location while this happened. So Gumiho fighting the front lines. Harstem and Gumiho, though, both taking damage behind this. Looks like Harstem will clean this up pretty quickly. Gumiho, though, still loses 11 more SCVs. Harstem now pushing the front lines, too. This is getting so scary. Without Vikings, 4 at a time are coming, but I think it might just be a little too late. There's so many storms available for this. Oh, my God, that first storm on. The Army Stim goes down as well. Not helping the case here as these Marines start to just pop off and dissipate. Gumiho now in a lot of trouble. The Colossus have got nothing to stop them.
Oh, my God, he ran into those storms that time.
Devastation.
Yeah. I didn't mind the lack of ghosts, but I definitely minded the lack of Vikings. Like I think that's what Gumiho realized too. Like, okay, maybe I should have gotten Vikings at the very least. But he didn't have a gas actually. He had a big mineral bank, but not gas.
Maybe, but ladies and gentlemen, Harstem takes the first game off of the Gumi God and puts them up 1-0 in this best of 5. Gonna play a small little EIZO break for you all. Stick around. We'll be back with map number 2, which is